The hall was silent. Not the silence of peace, the silence of a held breath. The silence of 1,000 wolves standing motionless, their eyes fixed on the woman who had just descended from the altar of moonlight. I stood at the center of the broken ceiling stones, my hand still raised. Silver light fading from my palm like dying embers. The stones beneath my feet had shattered when the purification began, their ancient runes cracking and crumbling into dust. Now they lay scattered across the marble floor like the bones of some long-dead beast. Sebastian was on his knees before me, the man who had hunted me across 3 territories, the man who had burned villages to find me, the man whose obsession had driven him to the very edge of madness now knelt in the ruins of his own ambition, staring at his hands as if seeing them for the first time. "You purified me," he whispered. His voice was weak, almost trembling. I lowered my hand. The silver light that had been flowing from my palm into his chest had finally stopped. The darkness that had coiled around his heart black ivy had dissolved. I had felt it leave him, not with a scream, not with a struggle, but with a quiet sigh, as if it had been waiting for release. "I did not purify you," I said. My voice was steady. That surprised me. Inside, my heart was pounding against my ribs, and my legs felt like they might give way at any moment. But my voice remained calm, clear. The voice of someone who had just done something impossible. "I only removed the darkness that was controlling you." Sebastian looked up at me. His eyes were still the same color, that deep amber it had once burned with fanatical devotion. But now the fire was gone. In its place was something I had never seen in him before. Emptiness. Not the emptiness of defeat. Not the emptiness of despair. Something more profound. The emptiness of a man who had been carrying a weight for so long that he had forgotten what it felt like to be without it. He looked at his own hands. For the first time in many years, there was no hatred in his eyes. No ambition. No madness. Only emptiness. His hands were trembling. I watched as he turned them over, studying his palms as if searching for something that should have been there but wasn't. The dark veins that had once spread across his skin like cracks in dried earth had faded. His skin was pale now, almost translucent, like the skin of someone who had been ill for a very long time and as only just beginning to recover. "I can't feel it," he said. His voice cracked. The voice. It's gone. The one that always told me I wasn't enough. That I had to be more. That I had to take more. That I had to. He stopped. Swallowed. "It's silent." I said nothing. There was nothing to say. I had seen what was inside when the purification took hold. I had seen the darkness that had wrapped itself around his soul like chains. I had seen the small, frightened boy that had been buried beneath all that rage. "I spent years," Sebastian continued, still staring at his hands, "chasing you. Years telling myself that if I could just find you, just claim you, just make you mine, everything would make sense. The pain, the rage, the emptiness. It would all make sense if I could just have you." He laughed. A broken sound. Hollow. "But it wasn't about you at all, was it?" He looked at me. For the first time. He looked at me without hunger, without obsession, without that desperate, grasping need that had always made me want to run. It was about finding something that could silence the voice inside me. "And when I finally found you, when I finally caught you in that barn, I thought I had it. I thought you would be the answer. But you weren't. Because the voice wasn't calm. From outside me. It was coming from inside. And no matter how much I took from you, I could never take enough." I felt something shift in my chest. Not sympathy. I wasn't sure I could ever feel sympathy for everything this man had done. But understanding. The understanding of someone who had also carried a weight that wasn't theirs to carry. "The darkness wasn't you," I said quietly. "It was placed inside you. By someone who needed you to be their weapon. Their tool. Their instrument of destruction." Sebastian's eyes widened slightly. "What are you talking about?" "I saw it when I touched you. The moment I reached inside you. I saw what was there. The darkness wasn't just your own. It was something that had been planted, grown, nurtured. Someone wanted you to be the way you were. Someone wanted you to hunt me. Someone wanted you to be consumed by your own obsession." "Who?" His voice was barely a whisper. I shook my head. I don't know. I couldn't see the face. I could only see the shape of the hand that placed the seed. But it was a woman's hand. And it was covered in something that made the darkness grow faster. Something like oil or tar. It was black. But it shined. And it moved like it was alive. Sebastian's face went pale. The priestess. I frowned. What priestess? The one who came to my father's court when I was 14. She was ancient, older than anyone I had ever seen. Her eyes were white. Not the white of blindness, but the white of milk. She said she had come to guide me, to help me become what I was meant to be. He stopped. Swallowed again. She gave me something. A potion. She said it would make me strong. Make me powerful. Make me worthy of the throne. His hands clenched into fists. I drank it willingly. I was 14 and desperate to prove myself to a father who never looked at me. I would have drunk poison if it meant he would finally see me. And it worked. I became strong. I became ruthless. I became everything he wanted. But I also became. He looked at his hands again. I became this. A monster. A hunter. A man who would burn the world to find a woman he had never even spoken to. Her name. I said. Do you remember her name? Sebastian thought for a long moment. Then his eyes widened. Elena. Her name was Elena. She said she served a higher purpose. A higher power. She said the moon goddess had abandoned us. And it was time for a new god to rise. I thought she was crazy. But I was young. And I was desperate. And she was offering me a way out. A way to become something more than just the unwanted second son. Elena. The name echoed in my mind. I had never heard it before. But the moment Sebastian spoke it, I felt something cold run down my spine. A warning. A premonition. This name. This woman. Was not something I had encountered by accident. She was woven into the fabric of everything that had happened to me. She's still alive. Sebastian said. She must be. The pact didn't end with the darkness. It was only the beginning. She said that when I completed my purpose, when I finally caught you and brought you to the altar, she would reveal the rest of the plan. The true purpose. The real reason why you had to be found. I stepped back. My heart was pounding again. The same fear that had followed me across the wilderness. Across the territories. Across years of running it was back. What rest of the plan? Sebastian opened his mouth to answer. And then Cain was there. Cain walked across the broken ceiling stones. His forehead was bleeding. A deep gash ran from his temple to his brow. The blood tracing a dark line down the side of his face. The corner of his mouth was injured. Split and swollen. His dark silver robe was torn at the shoulder, revealing the edge of a wound that was still seeping red. But his silver-gray eyes were brighter than ever. He walked slowly, deliberately. His boots crunched against the shattered stones. Each step sending small fragments skittering across the marble floor. Every wolf in the hall watched him pass. The northern wolves who had fought for him. The southern wolves who had fought against him. The neutral wolves who had come to witness the ritual. They all watched. And as he walked, something strange happened. The broken ceiling stones beneath his feet repaired themselves. I watched it happen. My eyes wide. My breath caught in my throat. The shattered pieces lifted from the floor. Drawn together by some invisible force. They reformed. The ancient runes that had been cracked and broken re-engraved themselves into the stone. The silver light that had once filled them flickered back to life. But the light was different now. Before, the ceiling stones had glowed with a pale, cold light. The light of imprisonment. Of binding. Of chains made visible. Now, they glowed with the same silver light that still pulsed gently in my palm. The same light that had poured from me into Sebastian's chest. Cain stopped in front of me. I looked up at him. I had seen this man angry. I had seen him cold. I had seen him calculating. Distant. And utterly controlled. But I had never seen him like this. His silver-gray eyes were blazing. Not with rage. Not with triumph. Something else. Something that made my heart stutter in my chest and my skin prickle with heat. He lifted both hands and held my face. His palms were warm. Calloused from years of training. Years of fighting. Years of survival. The smell of blood mixed with the scent of pine surrounded me, that familiar scent that had become woven into my nightmares and my waking thoughts alike. "Don't move," he said. His voice was low, rough, like he had been screaming and had only just stopped. I didn't move. His thumbs traced along my cheekbones, brushing away something I hadn't realized was there. Dirt, tears, blood. I couldn't tell. All I could feel was the heat of his hands and the intensity of his gaze. "The moon goddess," he began. His voice was barely above a whisper. "According to the ancient legends." I looked at him. "You know this legend?" "I do." "Then let it fall." His eyes never left mine. I could see myself reflected in them, the silver light still glowing faintly around me. My hair wild and tangled. My face pale and streaked with exhaustion. "It says that when the moon goddess descends upon her final heir." He paused. Swallowed. His thumbs continued their slow, gentle path across my cheeks. "She will choose an alpha king." His voice cracked slightly. "To become her guardian." The entire hall became silent. No one breathed. No one moved. I could feel the weight of 1,000 eyes on us, wolves from every territory, every clan, every family. They had come to see a ritual. A ceremony. A woman being claimed by a man who had signed a contract for her. Instead, they were witnessing something else entirely. Something ancient. Something sacred. Something that had not happened in 1,000 years. Cain lowered his head. His forehead touched mine. "Choose me," he said. His voice was quiet, private, as if the rest of the hall had disappeared and there was only the two of us standing in a world made entirely of moonlight. "Choose me," he repeated. "Not because of the contract. Not because of the bond. Not because of anything I have done or failed to do. Choose me because I am here. Choose me because I will always be here. Choose me because I will guard you until the last star falls from the sky." His breath was warm against my lips. His hands trembled slightly against my cheeks. For the first time since I had known him, Cain was not in control. He was asking. And I closed my eyes. And I chose him. His lips touched mine. The moment they did, everything changed. The mark on my shoulder, the mark of shame that had been burned into my skin 19 years ago, released its final burst of light. I felt it leave me, not like a wound healing, but like a weight being lifted, like a chain that had been wrapped around my soul for as long as I could remember, finally clicking open and falling away. The silver light inside my palm flowed into him. I felt it travel through my skin, through his lips, through his body. It poured into him like water into dry earth. His heartbeat reached me through the contact, slow, steady, strong. It merged with my own heartbeat, 2 hearts beating as one. The entire hall was filled with moonlight. It came from everywhere and nowhere. It poured through the broken windows, through the cracks in the ceiling, through the shattered ceiling stones. It wrapped around us both, warm and cool all at once. Ancient and newborn. The wolves in the hall gasped. Some fell to their knees. Others shielded their eyes. The light was so bright, so pure, that it seemed to burn away everything it touched. But I felt nothing but warmth. And Cain's lips against mine. Cain's hands on my face. Cain's heart beating in time with my own. When the silver light faded away, the sky outside had already begun turning pale. Dawn was coming. The mark on my shoulder was gone. I reached up and touched the place where it had once been. My skin was smooth, unblemished, as if it had never existed. "Is it over?" I whispered. Cain looked at me. His silver-gray eyes were soft now. The blazing intensity had faded, replaced by something that looked almost like peace. "Yes," he said. "It's over." The people in the hall slowly stood. They had been kneeling. All of them. I hadn't noticed when it happened. But the moment the moonlight filled the hall, every wolf in the room had dropped to their knees. Now they rose. Their faces pale. Their eyes wide. Their expressions looked like soil washed clean by rain. Empty on the surface, but finally free underneath. I understood that emptiness. I had felt it myself. When the mark first disappeared from my shoulder, It was the emptiness of having carried something for so long that you had forgotten what it felt like to not carry it, now that the weight was gone. You didn't feel relieved. You felt hollow, unbalanced, like you might float away because gravity no longer held you down. But underneath that emptiness, there was freedom. A freedom that came from knowing that the chains were truly gone, that the weight would never return, that you could stand on your own 2 feet and not be pulled down by something that wasn't yours to carry. Warwick struggled to stand. The former high priest of the southern temple looked nothing like the commanding figure who had presided over the ritual. His white hair was messy, falling across his face in tangled strands. His robe was torn, hanging off one shoulder like a broken wing. His face was gray with shock. He opened his mouth, but no words came out. The hunting order is cancelled, Cain said. His voice was cold. The warmth that had been in it moments ago was gone, replaced by the icy command of an alpha king. I watched the transformation happen, the softening in his eyes disappearing, the hardness returning to his jaw, the steel entering his spine. The ceiling stones are destroyed, he continued. If you still want to report this to the royal family, go ahead. But before your people reach the capital, they will already know what happened. The entire castle was illuminated by the moon goddess light. Every wolf within 100 miles saw it. Warwick's mouth closed. His shoulders sank. Without another word, he left the hall. I watched him go. The high priest who had sworn to destroy me. The man who had manipulated Sebastian into hunting me across 3 territories. The one who had stood on the altar and declared me a threat to the natural order. He walked slowly, limply, like an old man who had just discovered that everything he believed was wrong. I felt no satisfaction in his defeat, only relief, and a strange, hollow pity. Sebastian was carried away by Olivia's people. He did not resist. I watched them lift him onto a stretcher, 2 northern wolves who had volunteered to help. His eyes were still open, staring at the ceiling. There was no hatred in them, no ambition, no madness, but also no joy, only emptiness, and something else, something that looked like the beginning of grief. Cain watched him leave, send him back south. He said, "Tell his people the hunting order is over. Anyone who reaches their hand toward her again." His voice hardened. "I won't mind moving the border 300 miles further south." A ripple went through the hall. I heard sharp intakes of breath. Heard whispered words I couldn't quite catch. 300 miles was half the southern territory. If Cain made good on that threat, the balance of power would shift permanently. The southern wolves who had come to the ritual left quickly. They didn't argue. They didn't protest. They simply gathered their wounded and their dead and slipped away into the fading darkness. Marcus entered the hall. The northern general was covered in blood. Not his own. I realized with a start. It was splattered across his armor, dripping from his gauntlets. His face was grim, but his eyes held a fierce satisfaction. "The outside has been secured," he reported. "The southern soldiers have surrendered. Half of the northern traitors escaped. The rest are kneeling outside, waiting for your judgment." Cain answered without hesitation. "Let them kneel." Marcus nodded and withdrew. The hall finally became quiet. Only Cain and I remained. "Ned." Morning light entered through the broken windows. It illuminated the wound on Cain's forehead. The blood had dried into a dark red mark, crusted at the edges. The gash looked deep enough to need stitches, but Cain made no move to tend to it. "Does it hurt?" I asked. I reached out. My fingers touched his injury. He turned his head slightly, but he did not avoid me. "Your father," I began. "He was the one who did this to you." Cain's jaw tightened. "Yes. And you let him. Because you knew he was trying to stop the ritual. Because you knew he was fighting for something he believed in." Cain was silent. "I saw what happened," I continued. "When you fought him, you were stronger, faster. You could have ended it at any moment. But you held back. You let him hurt you. You let him. I let him exhaust himself." Cain's voice was quiet. I knew that if I fought back with full force, he would never stop. He was too far gone. He couldn't see reason. He couldn't see the truth. So I let him tire himself out. I let him burn through his rage until there was nothing left. He looked at me. Then I gave him the only gift I could. I let him see the moonlight. I let him feel the truth. And in that moment, he remembered who he was. I said nothing. Cain reached up and took my hand. He pressed my palm against his chest. You can heal others, he said. You saw. I did. He held my hand there, pressing it against the steady beat of his heart. Can you heal my violent bloodline? Silver light slowly seeped from my palm. I could feel it rising, answering his question before I could. The light entered his skin. I felt it flow through him, through his chest, through his veins, through his soul. It found the fire that had burned inside him since he was 18. The fire that had tried to consume him every full moon. The fire that had made him fear his own strength. The fire that was, finally, beginning to dim. Cain closed his eyes. His heartbeat gradually became calmer, like a drum that had been beaten by storms for years, finally finding its own rhythm. When he opened his eyes again, his silver-gray gaze carried a softness I had never seen before. Now, he said, your blood and mine are connected. He paused. His hand pressed mine harder against his chest. When you purified Sebastian, I saw it. You did not remove poison. You removed hatred. You took away the darkness inside him. He will never return to the person he was. I looked at him. And your violent bloodline. Cain was silent. Then he answered. Since I was 18. It has burned inside my bones. Every full moon. It tried to consume me. But every place you touched. He took my hand and brought it to his face. The fire disappeared. He turned his head and pressed a kiss to my palm. The day you stood in that barn and looked at me. The night you sang in the courtyard. The moment you brought your light into my chest in the dungeon. Every time you extinguished a little of it. He pulled me closer. His arms wrapped around me. I rested my forehead against his chest. His heartbeat passed through the fabric deep, steady, safe. It was the most beautiful sound I had ever heard. Can your violent blood return? I asked softly. Maybe, if you stop touching me. I looked up. What if I touch you every day? For a moment, he was silent. Then he laughed. A low sound from deep within his chest, like thunder that had been trapped behind clouds for too long. Finally released. It rumbled through him, through me, through the empty hall. Then, he said, it will never return. At sunset, Olivia found us. She carried 2 bowls of hot soup. Steam rising in curling tendrils that caught the golden evening light. Her face was still smudged with dirt and blood. She had been tending to the wounded all day, but her eyes were bright and sharp. We were in the tower. From up here, we could see the entire northern territory. The wilderness stretched out beneath us, wild and vast. The forests were dark green, their edges softened by the golden light. The snow-covered mountains rose in the distance, their peaks painted in shades of pink and orange. Everything was bathed in the warm glow of evening. So, Olivia said, looking between us. Her eyes narrowed with amusement. You two are truly bonded now. Cain answered. The mark is complete. The contract is broken. The blood bond remains. Olivia blinked. Then why do you still call her your contract bride? Cain did not answer. Instead, he walked toward me. He bent down, and he kissed the place on my shoulder where the mark had once existed. The kiss was so gentle it barely felt like anything. But I felt it. I felt it all the way down to my bones. Olivia immediately covered her eyes. She made an exaggerated sound of disgust, though I could see her grinning behind her hand. Honestly, you two are impossible. She turned and walked away, holding her soup bowl carefully. I'll leave you to it. But someone should feed you. Her voice floated back from the stairs. My grandmother said the one chosen by the moon goddess can live for 1,000 years. Cain, you better survive that long. I frowned. 1,000 years. I looked at Cain. Is that true? Cain was quiet for a moment. Then he said, the legends say so. The moon goddess was eternal, and when she chose a mortal companion, she gave them a portion of her immortality. The last one, the Alpha King who served her 1,000 years ago, lived for 970 years. I stared at him. That's a very long time. Yes. He looked at me. His eyes were soft again. That strange softness that only appeared when we were alone. Then you should touch me more, he said. Why? Because 1,000 years is a very long time. And I have no desire to spend it alone. I opened my mouth to say something I wasn't sure what, but no words came out. Instead, I stepped closer. And I touched him. The full moon rose. We stood together on top of the tower. The northern wind sweeping across the wilderness and wrapping both of us inside the same cloak. The silver light in my palm was quiet beneath the moonlight, like a thin layer of frost resting against my skin. Cain held my hand. His warmth flowed into me, steady, gentle, together with my silver light. Below the tower, the wolves rested silently. I could see them in the twilight, dark shapes moving among the trees. They had fought for us, killed for us, died for us, and now they rested, their bodies healing, their spirits slowly returning. Far away, the village lights slowly appeared, like scattered stars across the endless wilderness. Your father, I began. Cain was silent. He died during his rampage. And your mother, she was the one who... Cain's jaw tightened. Yeah, do you hate her? The wind messed up his hair. He did not move to fix it. I hate that she didn't ask me for help. His voice was quiet, controlled, but I could hear the emotion beneath it: grief, the pain, the years of silence. That year, I was only 12. She carried everything alone. After that, she never transformed again. I held his hand tighter. You won't be alone anymore. Cain lowered his head. Moonlight reflected in his silver-gray eyes. Beneath the cold surface, something warm flowed. I know. He paused. When you purified me, I saw my father. He was standing far away. He looked at me. He nodded. Then he left. I said nothing. There was nothing to say. Cain lowered his head and kissed my forehead. The northern wind moved across the wilderness. The grass swayed beneath the moonlight, like a silver ocean. The place where the mark of shame had once existed was now empty. But deeper beneath my skin, something new was growing. Not a contract, not a chain, but something chosen. An alpha king who finally lowered his head before the moon goddess, and held her hand. Cain tightened the cloak around me, pulling me closer to his warmth. Are you hungry? He asked. I blinked. What? Olivia's soup has gone cold. Let's go downstairs and heat another bowl. I smiled. He didn't look at me, but I felt its strength holding my fingers loosened slightly, then tightened again, as if he needed to make sure I was still there. I was. Moonlight followed the two figures walking side by side, from the top of the tower, across the wilderness, across the borders, and toward every place its light could reach. The wind stopped. The door of the north tower was unlocked. A fire burned inside the fireplace. Pine wood and dry birch branches crackled softly, casting dancing shadows across the stone walls. The cold stone bed had been covered with a new wool blanket, gray fabric with silver patterns woven across it. The iron bars on the window had been removed, and the night wind flowed freely into the room. I stood beside the door. Theodore stood by the window with his back facing me. His dark silver robe reflected the firelight, the fabric shimmering with hidden threads. His silhouette was sharp against the window, broad shoulders, narrow waist, the posture of a man who had spent his entire life standing between danger and those he protected. Close the door, he said. I did. The moment the door shut, he turned around. The coldness from the daytime was gone. The calm expression like a frozen lake was gone. Only his eyes remained golden, brilliant, like molten iron poured into cracks of gray stone. A light burning from within. Come closer, he said. I walked toward him. I stopped 1 arm's distance away. You today, I began. Don't speak. His voice was low and hoarse. The restraint he had carried all day finally began to break. Show me. I rolled up my left sleeve. The black witch mark appeared beneath the firelight, a dark swirl of ink-like markings that had been burned into my skin when I was a child. It had been there so long that I had forgotten what it felt like to not have it. Theodore stared at it. His breathing changed. He lifted his hand. His fingertips touched my wrist. This time, His touch was even hotter than before. Slowly, his fingers traced along the edge of the mark, following its curves and spirals. During the ceremony, he said, "Everyone was looking at you, but you stood there. You answered every accusation. Your voice never trembled." His eyes lowered, but I saw your hands. They were shaking. My fingers curled slightly. "You forgot something," I said. His voice softened. "The people on that platform were not only watching your face. They were watching everything about you." I looked up at him. We were close. His breath brushed against my forehead, carrying the scent of pine smoke and snow. "Why didn't you expose Isolde?" he asked. "Because I had no proof. Gregor was the one who acted. The servant girl was the one who carried out the plan. Isolde was the one who designed it. But there was no direct evidence connecting her. If I exposed her publicly, she would push everything onto Gregor." I looked at him. "A dead person cannot testify." Theodore's eyes narrowed slightly. "Gregor will not die," he said. "No, he will not. But he will lose." I paused, gathering my thoughts. Next month's territory council. The red soil territory depends on the northern mountain passes for its mineral trade. If the agreement changes, his finances will collapse within 3 months. His own nobles will turn against him. When he comes to negotiate, he will hand Isolde over. Theodore stared at me. His golden eyes searched my face, looking for something. "You really thought of everything," he said. "I was hunted for 19 years. I looked at him. People who cannot think ahead do not survive." Silence filled the room. Then Theodore lowered himself. His face moved closer to my wrist, almost touching the mark. He closed his eyes and breathed in. For a moment, everything stopped. His breathing paused. The veins at his temple tightened. "It's still there," he said. His voice was deeper now, rougher, stronger. During the ceremony, it was only like a thin mist. But now, he opened his eyes. The golden light had spread across his entire iris like burning copper, filling his gaze. "Now it is so strong that I can barely control myself standing here." I looked at him. "Your mother used black witch magic to hide your omega scent," he continued. "But she never considered one thing. She could hide your bloodline. She could hide your scent. But she could never hide your destiny." His fingers moved gently over the mark. "When I saw your face in the hall, the curse did not matter. The mark did not matter. The contract did not matter." His voice became quieter. "There was only one thought left in my mind. That this person, your blood runs through the same path as mine. Not because of scent. Not because of a mark. Because it belongs to the bones." He stepped closer. The warmth from his body passed through the dark silver robe, like a stone warmed beneath sunlight. I could smell him: cold cedar, burning iron, the fierce heat of an alpha. 3 days ago, I said this contract was only a transaction. I said I would never love you. His eyes lowered. "But when I said those words, I had already smelled you. The moment your hood fell, your scent reached me. I stepped back. I pushed you away. I locked you inside this tower." His hand tightened slightly. "Because if I had not taken those 3 steps backward, I would have pinned you against that wall in front of everyone." His hand moved from my wrist, slowly up my arm, stopping beside my shoulder. He lowered his head. His forehead touched mine. "You are close to breaking the curse. When your omega scent is completely released, every wolf within 100 miles will know." His voice became rough. "And when that happens, I will no longer be able to lock you away." I raised my hand. My fingers touched his jaw. My palm rested beneath his chin. My fingertips brushed behind his ear. "Then don't lock me away." His entire body froze. For a moment, he looked like a beast standing at the edge of control. His muscles were taut, his breathing ragged, his eyes burning with golden fire. Then he released everything. Not slowly, not gently, but like a wall that had been held together for 3 days finally losing its final stone. The entire barrier collapsed. His arms wrapped around my back. He pulled me into his embrace. The force was so strong that I stumbled, my face pressing against his chest. His heartbeat was powerful, fast, heavy, like a war drum. His hand held the back of my neck. His fingers tangled into my hair, pressing my head against the hollow beneath his collarbone. His lips touched the top of my head. "You won," he whispered. His voice was almost inaudible. The contract was fake. The transaction was fake. The coldness of these 3 days was fake. Only one thing was real. He pulled back slightly. His golden eyes met mine. "When you stood beneath that light, when your hood slipped away, when you looked at me and said, 'Then let it fall,' you already knew I would fall." I closed my eyes. My fingers gripped the fabric over his chest. Outside the window, the wind over the snowy fields stopped. The moon rose to its highest point. Silver light entered through the window, covering the stone floor, covering the wool blanket, covering the shadows of 2 people holding each other. His final words were quiet. "I did not keep you because of the contract. I kept you because you are you." I buried my face against his chest, where the black witch mark had once existed. A thin warmth began spreading. Not sweat, not blood, something softer, something like moonlight flowing beneath my skin. The curse was fading, and something new was beginning. The next morning, I woke to find myself alone in the tower room. For a moment, I panicked. My hand flew to my shoulder, searching for the mark that had been there for 19 years. But my skin was smooth, unblemished. The mark was truly gone. I sat up, pulling the wool blanket around me. The fire had burned down to embers, casting a dim orange glow across the room. Morning light was filtering through the window, pale and cold. Cain was gone, but his scent lingered, that familiar mixture of pine and snow and burning iron. He had been here recently. I could feel the warmth of his presence, the echo of his heartbeat that seemed to have merged with my own. I swung my legs over the side of the bed. The stone floor was cold against my bare feet, but I barely noticed. I was too busy trying to process everything that had happened. The ritual, the purification, the moonlight, the bond. I touched my chest. Beneath my skin, I could feel something, a thread of warmth that connected me to Cain. It was faint, but it was there. A constant reminder that we were no longer separate. A knock at the door made me jump. "Come in," I said, pulling the blanket tighter around myself. The door opened. Olivia entered, carrying a tray of food. Her face was still smudged with dirt, but she had changed into clean clothes. Her eyes were bright with something that looked like amusement. "You're awake," she said. "Good. Cain said I shouldn't wake you, but I figured you'd want to eat. You haven't eaten in 2 days. 2 days. I stared at her. "Don't you remember? The ritual lasted all day. And the purification. Well, that took a while too. You passed out right after. Cain carried you up here himself." I didn't remember any of that. The last thing I remembered was the moonlight, the warmth, Cain's lips against mine. After that, nothing. Olivia set the tray down on the small table near the window. There was bread, cheese, fruit, and a steaming bowl of soup. My stomach growled loudly. "Eat," she said. "Then I'll fill you in on everything that happened while you were asleep." I didn't need to be told twice. I sat down and began to eat. The bread was fresh, the cheese sharp, the soup warm and savory. It was the best meal I had ever had. Olivia sat across from me, watching me eat with a satisfied expression. "There's been a lot happening," she said. "First of all, Sebastian is gone. Cain's people transported him south last night. He didn't fight, didn't try to escape, just went quietly." I nodded, my mouth full. "The southern soldiers have all been sent back. Most of them surrendered without a fight. They said they were just following orders, that they didn't know what they were really fighting for. Cain let them go, but he warned them that if they ever set foot in Northern Territory again, they wouldn't be returning home." I swallowed. "And Warwick?" "Gone. Disappeared. No one knows where he went. Some say he's heading back to the capital to report to the royal family. Others say he's gone into hiding. Either way, he's not a threat for now." I took a sip of water. "And Isolde?" Olivia's expression darkened. "That's the complicated part. She's still here. Cain hasn't moved her out of the guest wing. He's waiting for something." "What?" Olivia shrugged. He wouldn't tell me. But I think he's waiting for you. He said you needed to be there when he decides what to do with her. I frowned. Why me? Because you're the one she wronged. Because you're the one who survived because of her scheming. Because. Olivia paused. Because he values your opinion. More than you might realize. I finished my breakfast in silence. Thinking. Isolde had tried to destroy me. She had manipulated Gregor. Corrupted the